Welcome back, folks, to the VIA Pinstriping page. If you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing. I have over 400 videos on the topic of pinstriping. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for watching. So today we're going to do a full design, real-time scroll. So I'm going to start off by working on the center, right? I'm going to try to do something that's a little bit connected to the center instead of it just going around the center. So we're going to try to involve the center with the design, right? That's the goal here. What I'm pinstriping on is a black cutting board that I got, I think, from like Marshall's or something. Just basically it's just hardwood. I'm using alpha enamels, and I'm using the Kafka number 3 scroller. So, and I am reducing with naphtha. So what we're gonna do is try to consider a way for the scrolls to be involved with the design. So I'm going to do a lot of ins and outs, back and forths, this and that. To sort of give it some, a little bit of creativity. Right. I feel like this one got a little shallow on me. So let's erase it, right? Because I'm going to cut in there, I feel like if I've gone too sharp with it, it just won't look the same, right? There's some things you can get away with not looking the same, and there's some things you can't. And with the beginning of a design, if I go too shallow with that little cutback, it might affect me later in the future with what I'm trying to do. So now I'm going to try to create that shape, same roundness if I can, and with the same curve. All right, not terrible. Not quite perfect, but not terrible. I'm going to cut back in here. That's the nice part about these scroll brushes. If I want to make a real tight turn, I don't have to think about it because you're working on the tip. And it really allows you to develop short, quick turns if you need to. Where this brush falls short is a longer line. If I had a sword, you know, I can cover a lot more distance in some ways with the sword than I can with the scroller. They both have their merits, right? So I'm going to give it a little bump there. Right? Maybe a little crisscross. I probably should have gone out before making that little crisscross, but that's all right. It kind of doesn't flow well if you don't go out with it. So I'll try to just manipulate it until it looks okay. right? Pull this out. And now I'm going to come down with the design, right? So down and out. Now it is a little warm in my room today. I got the furthest room in the house, and the air conditioning does not really carry over too well here, but it's okay. But I'm saying that to say that the paint is wanting to dry up on me pretty quickly, so I'm having to reduce quite a bit. The alpha stuff is a little tackier than One Shot. You know, they all have their merits. They all have their ups and downs. All paints. There's no perfect paint company. If you find a perfect paint brand, if you show me a perfect paint brand, I will show you a liar, because it's impossible. Impossible. That's why it's good to try to practice with all of them. I know what you're thinking. When's he going to do the scrolls? They're coming up. I'm just setting myself up for them, right? So now I got this little kind of area, right? You see, I've carved myself out an area to create them. Now, you're going to have to forgive me because I'm going to have the phone right in my face. So I'll try my damnedest not to breathe in right into the microphone. Here we go. I'm going to kick out a couple of scrolls coming this way. Now, from here, from this point to about there, I was completely blind. My hand was completely covering it up. The phone was covering up the other side, so I couldn't see. All that was done by feel. And that's kind of what scrolling boils down to. It's a particular feeling. Now I'm going to come past the phone to actually finish this stroke. The paint was running out on me. Now, if you allow the paint to become tackier, you gain a little bit more control. But with control comes less movement, right? You can't cover so much space, so you have to move slower. If you move too fast, you get all them skips in the line and such. So now I have to try to copy this. Now, if you don't want to fool around and try to find it and all that, there's nothing wrong with getting your pencil, all right? Giving yourself some little ideas, right? Even if you draw it wrong, you can always gather with the drawing where you're off, right? Something like that. And always remember with these pencils, lightly is the key. If you push down too hard, there's a good chance it's not coming off, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Any way you can get the design out of your head and onto the car, onto the canvas, onto whatever you got to do. As long as the outcome is the same, as long as you're happy with the outcome. There's nothing wrong with that. So keep that in mind. And sometimes I forget these these videos are geared towards beginners, right? So it's a good tool, you know. These are all tools, right? So my drawing is a little bit out, so I'm going to cut close to make sure I'm nice and close, right? The rest of it seems to be pretty on point. I don't know if you can see it, but it's quite light. So that gives me confidence now, more confidence that I'll be able to develop this without having to fuss around with mistakes, you know. And there we have it. Very nice. Didn't have to concern myself with, is it the right shape? Is it the wrong shape? All right. I'm happy with that. I know generally, probably, it's probably the first time I've done that in any of these videos. I try my hardest to freehand this stuff, you know. But, again, these are geared towards beginners. So let's give the folks a fighting chance here. Right, I see that's a little thicker than that. I just kind of want to clean that up a little, just to make it a little nicer. The meeting points are kind of like correct pronunciation. Pronunciation? Of course, I'm going to mess that word up. But your meeting points are kind of like your skill set, where you're at. It really shows how much you care about your design, what your meeting points look like. If you're just letting them go all over the place and cross over, and one's in this way and one's in that way, and one looks like this, one looks like that, that's where it kind of shows if you're being sloppy or if you're having a hard time with it. It kind of shows in your meeting points. Right, so we've got all this. Now we have to develop something further down. Generally, I would work down and out, but right now we're kind of doing it all at once, right? So we'll continue this shape maybe down here, but smaller. I know some folks have asked me, how do you develop a large design that looks cohesive and not like various designs stacked up onto each other? And one of the things that I like to utilize is reoccurring shapes. You know, it may still look like stacked designs, but the reoccurring shapes kind of give it some cohesiveness. It's almost like the chorus in a song, right? The hook always comes back and reminds you that you're still singing the same song. Now, let's see. I think I'm going to do another one of these, but instead of stopping here, I'm going to go a little further out. A little further out. Same thing over here. Keeping an eye out on the shape, the length, and where it stops, right? And now let's see. So last time, let's just go out and see what happens. I think I could kick out some scrolls in the middle. I'm trying to think of how I want to do this. Because last time I went up and over. So I think if I go in and out, it gives me a point to go up and under. And always remember that with symmetrical designs, the idea is for people to have their vision meet in the middle and want it to go outward, as if it were expanding. Or so I've been told. Right. So most of this line is connected up until about that point. And then I cut it around and I stop about right here. Again, if you're worried about catching that spot, just mark it. Well, I wouldn't mark it that hard, but you get the idea. I know I got to end there. If you're working on a matte surface, you could always use a little bit of tape and just put a little piece of tape there, and that kind of gives you an idea of where you want to go. Right, so this is basically stuck on this line until I get to roughly right there. Comes around, nice turn, stops there. Right, because I gave myself a reference mark, I didn't have to worry about overshooting it, undershooting it, and all that mess. Now, I'll develop a loop, and I'll develop a loop that kind of just cuts into itself. Just a kind of almost like a single loop. Now, over time, sometimes you get this kind of like muck here into your brush. If your brush starts to feel overloaded or big like that, you're going to start getting some performance issues, right? Just dried up paint in there. I kind of just squeegee that off, right? You know, it's been wiped off a little bit. I'll give it a quick rinse. I got a big jar of mineral spirits over here, or a big jar of naphtha, if you can't see it. Right. Quick rinse. Wipe it off again. And just start fresh, right? There's nothing wrong with starting fresh. I got plenty of paint. And I'm even gonna try to load the brush in a different spot. All right. And I always, just a quick tip, I always like to knock off just a little bit of paint off the end there. And that way I get a nice starting point, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna push to give it a nice fat end. Actually didn't expect to push that hard, but that's all right. We'll just even that out some, right? Sometimes those real thick to thin kind of, they look okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I didn't mean to push it so hard, but it's okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mirror that, right? So this starts coming off of here pretty quickly, coming around, and then cutting through, ending kind of back right there. All right, so I'm gonna load the brush up, reduce, reduce. When I'm reducing, I'm going in and out of the reducer so fast that I'm barely picking any up. The reduction of this paint is very minimal every time. It's never a huge reduction. All right, so I'm gonna come around, try to see where it's at, about right there. I'll put a little dot. I'm gonna cover that up anyways. Come around, looks like a pretty good distance. Hell, I even put a little dot there. Tiny little dot. All right, it's gonna cut in just below that. And we're gonna go damn near touching it. Damn near touching it. All right, little reference points. Come around, over. circle. Start to push down. And this one I'm probably gonna have to develop, right? I didn't push down nowhere near as hard as I did the first time, but that's okay. We can develop that. I'm just gonna start lightly, push down there. And this kind of also ensures that you get a similar kind of a shape that you did there. All right, push a little bit on the outside and push a little bit on the inside. And that kind of gives me that nice half moon shape. Right, been developed. And the nice part about scrolls, the fun part for me is some of the traditional design elements kind of go out the window. So if I wish to come out of this, I can literally just come right out of it. And that's what I'm going to do right here. Kind of give it, this is going upward, we're going to give it some downward arms. Right? So I'm going to knock a little paint off the tip. I'm going to come right out of here, right out of the middle. I'm going to go slightly up, and I'm going to push down and lift back up. Right? And I'm going to clean that up just a little bit. I'm going to load the brush, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Right. So I don't have to worry about getting the wrong shape. I'm going to draw it out. Right, something like that. Push down and lift back up. Just a light sketch, a light reference, a get me done, as they would call it at my warehouse. I work in a grocery warehouse. Push down and lift back up. Right. Boom. This one looks a little thicker. So I think I'll just thicken this one up on the top. There we go. And with all this mass here, it's kind of begging for something up there. So I'm just going to add just a little extra right here. Push down, lift up as I go, right? Kind of gives it a little bit of weight. Being that these are so thick, these were looking out of place. So we're giving it a little bit of weight on top. And let's see if I can stay my nose off of the microphone. So I might have to develop that one. The phone is right in my face, so I might have to kind of fake it. Right, and it kicks back up here at the very end. It's very subtle, but you could see it on the other one. It's kind of what makes that shape. Right. Slight downward curve. Because if not, then it's just a teardrop shape. But it really is all about this small kick up and the slight downward curve. Right. Again, this one's a little thicker than this one. Probably because I couldn't actually execute it because of the damn camera. Right, that makes me a little happier. Okay, so moving on. So, you know, we have design elements that are incorporated with scrolls, which is the goal, right? This could easily work out as a single color design. I do plan on adding other colors. So I think this may be a part 1, part 2 situation. So now, let's see here. I think from here, we'll do little X, little triangle, boom, boom. Something other than a circle, right? Actually, that one's a little bit odd. Right. A little lopsided, but it's okay. I'll live. And I think here I'm just going to come down and a hard turn in. It'll give me a nice thick bottom element. And then I have so much on top. Right? Over. All the way out. And then a quick in. Right. Now at this point, determining whether or not I want to add more to it or not, I feel pretty good with this amount. Yes, it is a little top heavy. You know, I guess I could add just a little bit more, just to give it a little flare on the bottom here. We'll give this some arms, right? So just coming directly out of here, I'll just follow this, but go a little bit further out. And I'll do the same thing over here. Parallel until I get to the bottom and meet up with it. That just gives it a little bit more weight. Now this whole design was freehand right here in front of you people. Right out of my head. So none of this was pre-thought. There are some things that I like about it, some things that I don't. Straight up. Let me see if there's anything I want to add to this while I still have this color in my hand. I guess one solid teardrop can't hurt, right? So we'll just put a nice fat one right there. Maybe a little staggered teardrop, right? The old school 3 teardrop shapes. They're a little ugly, but you know what? I like them. I like them. They're kind of like, they're off, but they're on. It's hard to explain. All right, so I think that's it for now. We'll move on to the next color. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for watching.